Welcome back. This tutorial is concerned with finishing the warp engines and a couple of other details around the ship. If you like these tutorials or find them helpful, then please remember to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell icon to be notified when I post new tutorials. Hopefully today we will be finishing the last of the modeling, and the big part that we're going to concentrate on are these cutouts around the front of the warp engines. Now, after the Enterprise was delivered to the Smithsonian, it looks like they replaced these units with clear plastic, although it was my understanding that during the run of the original series, these were actually leather cutouts with snaps on them. So we'll take a look at a few here, although this looks like clear plastic to me, and this was taken of the model prior to production, because you'll notice that the warp lights are not what we saw during the run of the series. This is one of the tests that they were performing when they were trying to determine what they wanted to do with the lights in the warp engines. All right, so now, here's what I'm familiar with. A leather strap that's rounded in the front, it's squared off in the back, and it's got a kind of a screwed-in unit here, and a snap that's snapped onto the acrylic hemisphere for the Bussard collector, for the clearish, well, semi-transparent front warp dome. And here's another angle, and here are the cutouts that we'll be making. They're not real detailed or anything. You can see it a little better here. It does not quite go all the way to the edge, and it does not quite go down all the way to the bottom, although I suppose we can certainly take liberties with that if required. You can see it a little better here, even though it's further away. You can see the screw and the snap. Also, this is interesting, I've been seeing this more often. I had always thought that this was a second round flashing light here, which is how I've always done my warp engine models. I'm sorry, always done the little running lights on the primary hull. But here and after the restoration, the most modern restoration, these things are almost tear-shaped. Also, although we haven't put them on our model yet, there are tiny little lights at the top of the warp engines. Also, we'll be putting in these inserts. Well, they're inserts on the 11-foot model, but we're simply going to put these 11 kind of like physical stripes on our model. They're very simple to do. They are just squares, they're just rectangles, just cut at an angle at the back, and they stick out just a tiny little bit in the front. Now, I'm going to put them on two sides of my model. Here's the interesting thing. The 11-foot model only had them on one side, of course. They had them on the starboard side. Now, as we all know, on the port side was not developed. They used it as an entry point for cables to power all the lights and motors and such that are in the 11-foot model. Here's what that looks like. There are these two rounded areas here and down here, and then there are these 11 basically just rectangles, just cubes that are elongated and cut off at an angle. So that's easy enough to do. But there was no such detail on the bottom, and of course there was no such detail on the opposite side, on the port side. Heck, it didn't even have an arm, actually. I'm sure I've got a photo in here somewhere of that. But, so we'll be making this, and it's up to you. There we go. Here's the opposite side. They didn't even bother to make the arm. So the detail is exclusively on the starboard side on the 11-foot model. But, of course, I find that to be ridiculous. The one thing that you'd have to decide is if you want to put that detail on the bottom. Now, there's also a minor detail that we have not put on our ship, or at least not yet, and that is the phaser nipple, which we've modeled, actually had a tiny little phaser sticking out of it. So it's just it's little more than, you know, a cylinder and maybe a rounded head, or a second cylinder with a hole in it, kind of like a gun. But that was put on there sometime after the second pilot. Here's one of Gary Kerr's photographs, I think prior to the current restoration. And for whatever reason, Gary always puts these little scale figures, or quite often puts these little scale figures on the model. And you can also see that the deflector dish is wrong. When the model was delivered to the Smithsonian, the deflector dish and the two hemispheres for the warp engines were missing. They were just gone or smashed, or nobody could find them, or whatever. So when they initially put out the Enterprise, I actually took photographs with a Polaroid camera. It just had this generic bowl on there for the deflector dish. Thank goodness that's been the original has been reproduced according to Gary Kerr's drawings, and it looks very much like, if not identical to, the original dish. But you can get closer here. It looks like these have a rounded component to them in front, except where they've been broken off. So we can do all of that. And here's where that section is again. And just if you want to see, here's those divots cut out of the warp engine. And you can actually see where that screw in the back went in to secure the that leather piece. Another angle. Come on, Eric. And another angle. Now the interesting thing that I found out years later is that this is actually all one piece, and it slides into this section here. During one of the earlier restorations, they actually took that piece off, cleaned it down, and I believe it's actually plastic. Here is a close-up. Now, number one, you get the little tiny light at the top of the warp engine. It is so small that most people don't even know that it was there. And there's one on the top of each. But here, this is the cellar. This kicks it. You have a leather strap and the two, looks like hex screws or snaps holding the warp engines on. Now, they've changed that. So if you were to make your model similar to how National Air and Space Museum made their Enterprise, they did something akin to what we were looking at before, where it looked like transparent, like clear plastic holding it in place. Only what they did was they made it the same color as the warp engine, or at least that's what it looks like. And theirs is a little different. They have magnets, so they don't have a second snap. These things just fit into place, click, with rare earth magnets. And they hold them on fairly securely. And you can see them a little better here. They might be clear. It's hard to tell. It looks like the same color, depending on the angle, although they could be clear. So if you want to put a large rare earth magnet holding a clear plastic thing here. Yeah, I can't fault you. It's certainly what the ship looks like today. Oh, there is a small light here. Again, I always thought it was round, but these things are almost teardrop shaped, which I find a little odd. But we can certainly make our tiny little lights like that. All right. All right, so let's open up Blender. And open up our tutorial. Alrighty. Now, if we just include our lights in the scene and ask it to show us a rendered view, our model is starting to look very similar to the iconic 11-foot USS Enterprise from the 1960s TV show. So I think it means that we're on the right track. This is looking good. There are some choices that you're going to have to make, such as in back of all of these cones, these cowls, you have to determine if you want to make it like when I built my models as a kid, and when I made my other USS Enterprise that I use for animating sequences, I have the entire back of the area copper, just like the cowls. And as a matter of fact, of course, according to Gary Kerr, that's incorrect. He's got it, and my coloring guide that I gave you, the dish is copper. The spike is brass, and that these back here have been alternately described as antique gold or a mix of copper and gold, so that these are different from this, which is different from this. Anyway, all right, so first thing is, let's go to wired. I'm going to get rid of our lights and cameras so we can focus a little more. Actually, tell you what, let's go right to just one. And I'm going to move our warp engine to spot number 4, which has got nothing in it at the moment. I'm going to go to 4. And that way we can concentrate right on the warp engine. Oh, what the heck here? That took a moment. All right, so let's start our keys, and Alan has in his plans very nicely given us 2 of the 3, and the third should be just right down here in the middle. So it's not like they're evenly spaced. The 2 up top are closer together, and the one on the bottom is presumably in the middle. But we can at least use these as a starting place. So I'm going to tab into my warp engine, and because I'm going to select one of these verts, and you've seen this trick before, Alt, right mouse click, and just keep right mouse clicking until it discovers which direction you want to go, and it will select all the verts all around this area. I'm going to Shift S, move our 3D cursor to the selected vertices. And so what it's going to do is it's going to put the 3D cursor right in the middle of all of them. I'm going to deselect them and tab out of editing our warp engine. As a matter of fact, I'm going to hit A to deselect it, and 3. All right. Shift A. We're going to add a mesh. We're going to add a cube. Like I said, this is going to be real simple. We're going to S to scale it down, make it pretty small. Scale, and it looks like it's less than 2 of our units up here. All right, so I'm going to grab Z, and I'm just going to move it down here. All right, so this is still too large. So this is kind of 1.5. So I'm going to scale this down. Oops, we'll make this bounding box center, scale. And that looks like it might be about right. All right, so now I'm going to turn this back to 3D cursor, and I'm just going to rotate and get up here near one of these. Maybe mine is a little small, so I'm going to go back to bounding box center, scale, and bring it up a little bit like that. Rotate. Whoops. Rotate. Little too large, but not by much. Scale. Okay, that looks good. Now this picture of Chris Trice's kind of shows us everything that we need. The divot does not go all the way back here, and it comes very close to the front edge. Since you can't really see underneath it, it's up to you guys. I'm going to make mine come as close as I can to the warp engine. So I'm going to hit Control 7, takes us to the bottom, Z, so that it's not transparent. All right, so now I've got a little bit of work to do. I've got to grab X, right, and move this like so. I'm going to hit 1. Let's come take a look at it here. All right, so I'm going to need to make some changes. First, this isn't wide enough, so scale X. Oops, bounding box center. Scale X. All right, Z. As we know from the Chris Trice picture, the cutout does not meet this edge, so I'm going to grab X and move it forward a little bit. All right, I'm going to, let's see now. I'm going to go to 3. Nope, 1 we'll have to do, Actually, let me do this shift. All right, you know what? That's an interesting thought. I'm going to grab Z and bring this out. I'm going to have it so that it almost meets my warp dome. Almost. Well, all right, grab Z. All right, I guess I'll bring it right to that. Not that it matters. I'm going to cover that, some of that spot with my leather strap, right? So Control 7. All righty. So that, you know what? That'll do for now. Shift and get rid of layer 1. Go to 3. And from bounding box center, I'm going to go back to 3D cursor, Shift D, and time to rotate. So I'm going to, let's see, that looks 90 degrees would bring me here. 180 is here. 120? Rotate 120. Nope. Almost there. Rotate 133. Try 134. Rotate 134 degrees. Almost perfect. Let's try rotate 135. Rotate 134.5. Bingo. Nice. I like it. Going to select this again. Shift D to duplicate. Right mouse click. Rotate negative 134.5. Good enough for our purposes. All right. So now I'm going to shift right mouse click the other two boxes. I'm not going to select anything else, just those. I'm going to hit Control J to join them into one object. All right, and now I'm going to select our warp engine object. I'm going to go to modifiers, add a modifier, and pick Boolean. Been a while since we used this. We don't want intersect, we want difference, and we're going to pick one of our squares. All right, so I'm going to move this to number 5 just to see what happened. And okay, looks like that'll do the job. Pick this, and I'm going to apply. I'm going to go to layer 5, get rid of this. Just I'm going to move it out of the way because I no longer need it. And if I include these two levels and go to rendered, we can see what those look like. Good enough. It's not a real detailed feature, but it is causing some render errors. All right, so go back to, actually, go to solid, tab into it, A to deselect, and what have we got going on here? Ah, okay. Well, let's see here. I guess it doesn't know how to render that. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to dissolve an edge. No, I'm not. I'm going to delete an edge. All right. I'm going to go back to vertices, and I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, and 4 verts, make a face. 1, 2, 3 verts, make a face. Although I prefer 4. Ah, this one was so close. Too bad. I'm going to delete that vert. And let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make a face. 1, 2, 3. Make a face. I'm causing myself more problems here. Oh yeah, hang on. Let me tab out here. Get rid of my lights and cameras. All right, good. That's actually okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make a face. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make a face. And I guess we can do it with a couple of triangles here. Face. And 1, 2, 3. Face. And then 1 quad right in the middle. 3, 4. Face. A. And tab. That does not look good at all. Edge split, angle 30. Maybe we can bump that up to 40 degrees. Not quite. No, that's not doing it. Oh, it might be normals that are causing me a problem. A. Mesh. Normals. Recalculate. No, that didn't work. Mesh cleanup. Delete loose. Mesh cleanup. We already did remove doubles, fill holes. That's still not doing it. What we could do is we could increase the density of our mesh before cutting them out. Or I could just reverse normals on a few faces, but that's not going to do it either because it's unsure how to render here as well and even here. Wonder how many changes I've made. Too many. Alright, maybe what I'm going to do is just reload. Alright. Move that to my 4th, and real fast. Recreate what I was doing there. Basically, I'm just redoing everything that we did before. Alright, so I'll make a couple of duplicates, Shift D, rotate 134.5, Shift D, rotate negative 134.5. Okay, join these three, 2, 3, Control J. Alrighty. Now, before I make any more of a mess of this than I have, one, two, three. They're each situated up just a little differently. Actually, these two are identical, just mirrored. If I change this by a fraction, I don't think anyone would notice the difference. All right, so 3. I'm going to Oh dear, that does make it a little more difficult, doesn't it? Alright, so what if I don't? What if I Control R? And good. A, Control R. A. Let's see now. Control R. The way I have mine, I think I'm cutting in a little here, so Control R. All right, so in back of it, in front of it, I'll just have to do the sides on the other two. Everything else should be the same, so Control R. And this one, of course, because it's actually centered, is doing pretty well. Alright, I don't know if this will work any better, but before I do anything else, File, Save. Just to be on the safe side. Have I got these three? Yep, as one unit, I do. So we're going to try this again. Modifiers, add Boolean, move it up, change it to difference, and pick our apply, move these out of the way. And see what we've got. Ah, good. Not giving us those weird render errors. Looking much better. All right, cool. I think that's good enough to continue. All right, so let's bring in our warp dome and everything. Excellent. Nothing's peeking through. But we do have to add our device that's going to hold the warp engine in place, or who knows, maybe it's a magnetic flux distributor or something. It doesn't matter. Now, it seems to me that a cylinder would actually probably do the job. So Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder. I'm just going to, it's going to be small, and we probably won't ever really get close to it. But I will tell it to smooth, and I will add an edge split. That's fine. Tab A, and let's do some fixing. I'm going to actually, Eric, it's easier to fix if you use a different number. Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder. We're going to turn this to 36, right? Because that would be a 10-degree turn for each. If I rotate this 5 whole degrees, it now gives me something to work with, because I'm going to have that squarish back. So I'm going to Tab A to deselect. Actually, tell you what. I'm going to move this to layer 5, jump to layer 5, and we'll just do some work on this. All right, so I want to leave this center set of verts. I want to pick all of these verts to the left of those center verts, X, and delete verts. Okay, great. This gives us a little hemisphere thing to work with, which is fine. We're going to pick this face on the back and just hit F for face. Great stuff. All right, now we pick this, these two, right, and just keep hitting F until it is done. A, and if we hit Z, we're getting a nice solid object. We've just got to do the same on the bottom. Grab these two verts and keep hitting F until it completely fills all the spots. All right, great. So now that's done. Smooth and edge split. All right. Bring back in our warp engine, and what the heck, bring back in the domes and everything. All right, so we're going to scale this down. I'm going to grab Z and move it so that my center is right here. Make sure bounding box center is on, and scale. All right, Control 7, Z. Want to see how this fits in that slot. So scale. All right. Now let's quickly take a look at that one picture again. And it looks like it pretty much fills from top to bottom. Hang on. I had a better shot here somewhere. There we go. All right, so this one definitely has it pretty much fill from left to right. There's a little bit of space here, but I don't think we have to worry too much about that. All right, so if I go back in here and scale this just a little bit, it's almost filling. All right, we're going to grab X and move this out here. Now I'm going to look at it from 1. Recenter this and go to Z. All right, so I'm going to scale X. Well, no, I'm not. I'm going to scale Z. All right, so we want this fairly flat. And I want this, let's see, so grab Z. Oh, look at that. Alan, I think, has actually modeled, drawn where this actually goes. That's wonderful. Control 7. Look at that. All right, so I'm going to grab Z. No, I'm going to grab X this time. Man, I am not doing so hot today. All right, that's pretty close. Now, here's why we did what we did. I'm going to grab this back section. Basically, this face, if you want to think about it that way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Control 7. Right? Grab X. Boy, thank God I got that. Oh. I must have on. Yep. I forgot to turn off my proportional editing. Grab X and move it back till it basically comes really close to the back end of this. You could have it abut it. I don't care. That would be perfectly fine. But we now have something that pretty closely replicates what they have on the original. Now, we could either, I'm trying to remember what I did with this. Rotate this, or, I mean, there's a bunch of different solutions you could do. But certainly one thing that would work would be, if we go in here, Z, deselect everything. B, grab all the verts on the way this is, since this is on the bottom, these are the top. I'm going to grab Z and just make them come up and touch the front of the warp engine, right? A to deselect, tab out, Z, see what it looks like. And that doesn't look too bad. That's not bad. And we're going to wind up putting a couple of little hemispheres on this thing to imitate the buttons that that are on there, just like on here. So, and they've got hex. Boy, you know, I never went down to the hex level. Life is full of new experiences. So, 6. All right, so A to deselect, Shift A. We're going to add a mesh, a UV sphere, and I'm going to make this 36 again. All right. And we only need half. So I'm going to go to 1, Tab, A to deselect. I'm going to, I want from the middle all the way down. I want to keep. So we're going to B, grab everything up top and not the middle. X to select the vertices, to delete them. Control 7, Z. How are we going to do this? All right. Well, if I'm going to do it, might as well do it the right way. I'm going to A to deselect, Shift A. We're going to add a cylinder. But we're going to take this cylinder down to 6. All right, great. Scale. Whoops. Z. Scale. And how similar is that? Oh, maybe it's 1/4 of the size. All right, not too shabby. 1, grab Z. And we're going to take this, add a modifier, Boolean difference, pick our 6-sided cylinder, apply, move this, we don't need it anymore, and Control 7 Z. Okay, so now we've got something that looks like a hex. I can't believe I did that. Smooth and edge split, of course. All right, cool. So I'm going to run over here to materials, and well, they looked kind of blackish. I'm going to take my dark hull gray, and that's going to stand in for the color. All right, so 1, scale, grab Z, and scale some more. All right, cool. Control 7, grab X, Z, and scale. All right. Take a look at our picture again. It'll do. All right, so grab X, 1, grab Z. Does that look too large? A to deselect. No, I guess not. It'll do. Control 7, Z, Shift D, grab X, and move this into place here. All right. So, not bad. Not bad at all. Now, was the original really that round? Hang on. No, they're kind of flattish. All right, I'm going to delete that. 1, select this. We are on bounding box center. Good. Scale Z. That looks a little better. Yeah, I can live with that. All right, Control 7, Z, Shift D, grab X, move that into place. And the only thing we don't have with a color on here is this. Let's take a look at this again. looks kind of like the hull color, so we're going to grab this and grab the hull. Like I just called it hull. Or maybe I called it hull gray. All right, cool. Yeah, that's good. Now, I'm going to take that and the two snaps, and I'm going to shift click. All right, all three are selected, and I'm going to Control J. They are now one item. So if we go to 3, Z, actually I'm going to, well, let's move that out to 4 and restrict ourselves to 4. So we've just got the warp engine and our new little item here. So we go back to 3D cursor, Shift D to duplicate, rotate. That was 134.5 if I remember correctly. Good. Shift D, rotate negative 134.5. Cool. All right. Okay, so, oh, there's also this light. Even Alan drew it as just a round light. That's interesting. All right, but it's a tiny little thing, so Shift A, we're going to add mesh and UV sphere. I'm going to go to 1, rotate 90. We're going to scale this down, grab Z and center it right up here. 7, grab X. Scale, oops, bounding box center, scale till we've got it approximately the right size. Now, you get to make a choice. You can either leave it as a sphere, in which case you didn't need to rotate it 90 degrees. Smooth and, I don't know. I've got a green glass here. Grab Z and bingo. So you can either leave it as a sphere or you can tab into this, deselect it all, pick just this one vert in the center there, in the back. Probably wise to turn on your proportional editing and make it smooth. Grab and then, hang on. Where's my, how big is this thing? Grab, there we go. Turn down the proportional editing by hitting G and then using the flywheel, scroll wheel on your mouse. All right, so and if I grab in the X direction, you get that teardrop shape, right? Kind of like what we saw. So, man, that's weird to me. Just should be round. Doesn't matter. We've got our light on top of our warp engine. It's small. If we bring everything else back in and go to a hit 5 and go to a rendered view, we can see what this looks like. And it doesn't look bad. Looks pretty good. All right. And we've got our little clamps on our warp engine in all 3 spots, along with the snaps and the leather straps. So we've got the curious looking. Oh, you know what? That might be a little too bulbous. Yeah. All right, so let's bounding box center, scale this down. 7. All right. That looks better. That looks a little more like the original, I think. Oh man, it's really tiny. All right, well, it'll do. Warp engine is done. Let's, we're going to make this little doodad here. And let's see. All right, so I'm going to move the light to the first layer. Move the warp engine to the first layer. Going to move our 3 new pieces to the first layer, so move 1, and that should leave the 4th slot empty. I want the spinners and the lights inside the warp engines in separate layers, at least for now. The reason is because when it comes time to animate them, and yes, I'll show you how to do some of that, it is much easier if they are in their own layer, at least to begin with. You can always move them out or back, but this will do for now. All right, I'm going to go to the 4th layer, just where it's nice and clear, and we can see where these 11 items are supposed to go. So they're rounded and yet in the front and squarish in the back. I've never actually done it that way. They were always squarish on mine. But again, we're going to Shift A, and we're going to add a cylinder. All right. Let me do 32. Let me look at something here. Yeah, that'll do. All right. So we only need 1/4 of our UV sphere. I'll show you what I mean. All right, so we've tabbed into it for edit. I'm going to A to deselect everything, and I'm going to, here is a center vert and a center vert. We want to keep those. So I'm going to B and delete all of these verts on the back, kind of like we did for our snaps. For our all right, I'm going to make an edge on the top and an edge on the bottom, not bothering with the face. And with these two selected, I'm going to hit subdivide and get one in the middle. All right, same here and here, subdivide. Now I've got a vert in the middle. Why? Because I don't need all of these either. So I'm going to leave these verts in the center and this vert in the center. And I'm going to pick everything below those verts. X and verts. Okay, great. So we've got this weird setup here. Now, I want it to be solid. It just tends to render a little better that way. So I'm going to pick 1, 2, 3 verts, make a face. We're making a bunch of tries, but again, this is a tiny little area. We will never see the sides of this thing. You could probably make an n-gon and get away with fewer edges. And I should probably go to Z so that you can see what I'm doing here. Z, all right. Hey. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of making like a piece of quarter round. I'm going to make an actual face here and make an actual face here. And then Control 7. And we're going to do the same to this side. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I did not realize how long this had taken me. I am so sorry. All right, we're going to finish filling in this set of faces. And then I no idea. I thought this was going to be quick. All right, so we've got our piece. It'll probably render out fairly nicely. I don't see any weird rendering here. We can tell it's smooth and edge split. And it looks good. All right, 1. Let's go to 3. All right. So this round part is supposed to actually kind of be the other way around. So we're going to rotate this 45. No, we're going to rotate it 90. Sorry. Rotate 90 degrees. All right, good. Here's why. If we go to 1, bounding box center, scale Z, and bring this down to just a really thin piece, right? Then I'm going to grab, move it down here. And we want this scale to be very tiny. Like, that's far too large. If I grab this and move it over here, we want this to be as thin as one of these 11 pieces. So I'm going to continue to scale this down until about like that. That's not bad. What I want to do is I want to move this down to the largest piece. So let's see here. I haven't done it this way. If we do this as an array, (11), 0, and Z gets a 1. It's not bad, but not quite thin enough. So we want a constant offset in the Z direction. And we want them to have some space between them. As you can see here, the space is almost the same space as the thickness of one of these things. Almost, but not quite. So we're going to keep increasing this. Let's make it 0.75. That's not bad. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale Z. Actually, let's just scale. Now, it about fits the size of the item. But I think I still need more space. So scale some more. Make that 1.5. Not bad. Scale. All right, so if I grab X and move them here, tab in, what I want to do is I want to grab this back face here, right? Go to 1, and we're going to extrude. And it's already selected the Z direction for us. So I'm going to bring it out here and make it larger than the actual item. Tab. And I'm going to apply this array. What the heck, I'll apply the edge split. A. Alright, so that's about the fastest I've ever made that piece. We're going to Shift A, add a cube. Grab and bring it down. We're going to scale this down. So I don't need it anywhere near that size. I just need it so that it's larger than and intersecting with our current piece. Z. And kind of center it up here. We're going to rotate until we've got that angle just about matched. That's not bad. I'm going to take this piece, Boolean difference, pick our cube, apply, and it's almost done. I'm going to move this cube out of the way, but it looks like we've got some weirdness going on with this. So, not exactly certain why. We're going to tab into it, and I want this to be vertices. So the vertices are already selected. That's interesting. X vertices. I'm going to select all, just to be on the safe side. Remove doubles. Wow. And mesh, clean up, delete loose, A, mesh, clean up, and fill holes, just to be on the safe side. Tab 1, not bad. A to deselect. Those are very nice. All right, so let's bring back in the rest of our model. All right, Control 7. I'm going to grab Y, whoops, grab Y and move this really close to our area here. So grab Y and make them touch. Okay, not too shabby. Probably grab Y and move them in a little more. Okay, cool. Almost forgot. We want these to be hull gray. Let's throw that edge split back on there. Alright, looks better. Is that hull gray? What do we got for the hull? Oh, I selected medium hull gray? I didn't mean to do that. Hull gray. Alright. Bring back in our lights and camera. And let's move to rendered, and it says hull gray. It's medium gray now. Boy, I am just not hull gray. There, finally. Alright, we've got the rounded front end, which looks nice. The rest of it is squarish, and it's beveled off in the edge that we like. Looks like I've got some cleanup to do somewhere around here, right there. But I've got to put those two rounds on. I guess that'll be the next tutorial, guys. I'll see you later.